Okay, well, hi everyone, and thank you very much for watching my show today. Absolute pleasure. And today I have a very special guest. I've probably been pumped for this one for quite a while. Daniel Podmore, absolute legend of both unlicensed boxing and bare knuckle boxing as well. This man is currently British heavyweight bare knuckle boxing champion. He's had over 200 fights. You heard that right, over 200 fights in unlicensed boxing and fought some of the very best. And obviously, he's currently competing for bare knuckle boxing, where he has fought some of the very best, including Paul Taylor, Josh the Hammer Burns, Rob Cunningham, Charlie Milner, and Mickey Parker as well. So he's fought some of the best with more to come. Obviously, he's repping the brand there as well, BKB. So I've got to give a big shout out, Jim Freeman, Joe Brown. Big respect to you guys. Absolutely changed the face of combat sports for the better, and I continue to do so. So, champ, first and foremost, obviously, thank you for coming on, just so we don't
No
leave that
problem.
out. Thank you very much. All right, so yeah, let's get into it. I mean, we will talk about bare knuckle because you've got the obviously repping the brand there, and you've got the belts, but obviously you've done a lot in unlicensed boxing. Now, over 200 fights is the general sort of record that's out there. Do you know how many you've had, or is it just so many that you lost count
It's
in the end?
yeah, I sort of lost count. So it's I lost count of probably uh, 150 fights, but there's been so many after. So I'm just saying it's like 200 plus. It's probably more. It's probably more, but I'm just sticking to that figure. So,
Yeah.
but it's definitely a lot of fights.
A lot of fights, yeah, and obviously big respect on that because that is really something. And another thing here though is there were cases where you fought like on the same night or you fought like pretty much back to back or pretty close together. Can you just sort of share with us a little bit about what that was like? I mean, I don't really have a really narrow question, but am I right in saying that you literally fought on the same night sometimes? Is that true?
Yes, some nights, I'd take fights on like last minute.
Mhm.
So it could be a week notice or 2 weeks notice, and I'd overbook sort of thing. You know what I mean? So one night I could be fighting in Coventry at 9 o'clock, and then I'd have to be in Western-super-Mare, at 11. You know what I mean? So, or it could be on the odd occasion where someone's pulled out on the show that I'm fighting on, and then they'd ask me to fight twice in the same night on the same show. So I think that was more like the latter part of the unlicensed sort of stuff, because I was just taking fights left, right, and centre. But yeah, it, it become a bit of a job, to be fair. Instead of fun. So
Mm.
it was become a bit of a chore. But obviously the money side of things was just it's making me do it, sort of thing. But yeah, so I've got some good memories though of doing it though. To be fair, you know what I mean. So
That's good. That's good because you accomplished a lot, and that's why I sort of started here. And I know that the bare knuckle fight is going to be the primary thing, but I couldn't skip over your unlicensed career because there's so much you've done. Now, the only other thing to touch on there is, or maybe one or two things before the bare knuckle, is there was sort of a transition, wasn't there, where you started off sort of beating everybody and all that sort of thing, and then obviously you were taking fights and not really trying basically and what was that transition like in your own words, if you don't mind
um,
sharing. Yeah.
it's yeah, so like I'd fight on local shows. I'd sell tickets. I'd sell the place out. I'd do 80, 100 tickets, 150 tickets a time.
Mhm.
Um, and I'd get a nice little small little purse. Um, I'd say about £1,000 to £1,200.
Mhm.
Um, and I wanted more fights more often. So one of my friends off the white collar circuit, he offered to. He said to me that he could get me fights 3 times a week that would pay the same money. So, and that was basically it for me. He was like, if you're fighting 3 months at a time for tickets,
Mhm.
I could get you that on the weekend, every weekend. So fighting Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, possibly twice some nights. So I says, yeah, let's do it then. So it was a no-brainer for me. It's like, yeah, because I think I was on about 25 fights, and I'd lost one on an iffy decision. So the phone wasn't really ringing. So obviously, people who was hearing that I was was okay on the circuit. So, and realistically, it was no, I wanted to fight someone that was 25 fights and lost one, really. So I started to take on the journeyman role, and that's when I started losing a few, the phone was ringing off the hook. You know what I mean? So yeah, the money started rolling in. To be fair.
Oh, well, that's good. I mean, that's good, champ, in a way. And I know with that, I give it a mention because a lot of people, it's not what people think it is. And the last thing with that, not what people think it is obviously the locations. I mean, unlicensed boxing, it's sort of got that outlaw reputation. As I mean, so has bare knuckle, obviously. But I think people have seen like Snatch and have seen all that stuff, and they think it's like that. And I know sometimes it is. I've been to some unlicensed shows that are pretty much they're the same as professional shows, and I've been to other ones where they are quite dodgy, and I'm not gonna lie. But so, in your own words, can you share any stories that come to mind of like crazy venues, or just or what some of the places were like, in terms of where you were fighting, because you were all over the place, and I
Yeah.
just think it's not what people think it is. So I want to give that a highlight, and then we'll get to the bare knuckle, okay?
So as you said, there was some venues and some promotions that were, they were spot on. They was totally professional. It actually looked like professional shows. And then there was the other end of the scale where, I'd turn up at a working man's club and the ring would be that high, you'd be boxing. You'd be boxing and your head would be hitting off the polystyrene tiles on the ceiling and stuff like that. So, and there's ones where, I've gone down to like Clacton on Sea, Southend on Sea that way, in Essex sort of way, I think. And it's just been a room. There's been like no security nowhere. The rings were like overrun. You'd go in and the promoters and that wasn't really like up to scratch on shows like that. But it was sort of the case where you'd have to say, I'm not going in the ring until I'm paid, sort of thing. So yeah, it was a bit of a dodgy one. But we got paid every time. So
Well, that's good. That's good. But yeah, it's just a little bit of intrigue for people, isn't it, who haven't been to a show like that. I mean, because obviously a lot of people watching this will, but there'll be some that won't. So I like to sort of toggle for both audiences. So, all right then. So let's get into bare knuckle itself. Obviously, you've accomplished a lot. Obviously, British heavyweight champion, for some of the very best so far. Now, obviously, giving a mention to how that started, because I think it's good for any fan watching this, because I believe you retired at one point and then you came back to obviously bare knuckle. But correct me if I'm wrong on that. But just tell us the story of what
yeah,
happened.
it was because I was having so many fights. I thought, what, it become a bit of a chore. So I was like, nah, I can't be asked anymore. And this was probably after a few bare knuckles as well. I thought, what, it's not worth it. I can't be asked. I think I was just getting lazy and complacent and stuff. So I just thought, yeah, it's not for me. And some shows that I was going to, they'd say to come to win, and then I'd actually put some effort in, and I could be clearly winning, and then still lose the fight. So it was, I can understand. I was like used to it, to be fair, doing it. But when they're saying to you, "Come to win," it's a 50-50 sort of thing, and when you wasn't winning, when you clearly did, it was a bit disheartening. So, and then there was clear like mismatches as well. So you go to some of the shows and you'd be like, you're saying that you're going to be fighting, say, a 40-year-old ex-pro who's not been in the ring for 10 years, but then you get there and you're fighting a pro prospect who's got 30 knockouts and stuff like that. It was in that side, in that respect of the game, it is a bit dodgy. You know what I mean? So, which is now why I will only deal with like professional shows. So, but then, I think there was one fight now where it turned it all around for me, and I decided that what, I'm going to give it one last crack.
Amazing. All right. So so with this in mind, obviously you've transitioned into bare knuckle now. Obviously, I'd like to talk about some key fights and basically walk through them and just share your recollections of anything you'd like to share. Now, just to give you a bit of context for this, the fans watched the fight, and and I saw your story, by the way, about Josh Burns having over 1 million views. That's, that's class, that is. But obviously the fans watch the fight, but they don't see obviously your experiences. And I know that sounds kind of obvious, but they don't know what leads up to it, and they don't know, what's going through your mind and all that sort of stuff. So, and that's no disrespect to the fans. It's just, we see two big fellas having a fight, but there's a lot more to it. So my goal with this is just to share your experiences and your recollections of the bare knuckle fights. So with that being said, obviously we start at the beginning with Mickey Parker. He's a great lad, big respect, Mickey, and I will precursor this, big respect to every opponent that we're going to be mentioning. But let's start with him. Let's start with Mickey, and when it all started for you in bare knuckle. What do you remember about that fight?
This one was a last minute replacement as well for one of Mickey's opponents. I was supposed to have my debut before Mickey. I was supposed to be fighting Harry Miles as a last minute replacement. But I broke my leg on a white collar show 2 weeks before, so that was obviously that got cancelled. So I said to Jim and Joe, just whenever you're ready, just get me back on and I'll fight. And it was Mickey Parker, and from what I remember, it was a good old scrap. I wasn't in the best of shape, but obviously I was, a few rounds fit, been on the white collar circuit and whatever. So I thought, you know what, let's have a go, see what the show's about. And the show was amazing, to be fair. There was some great fights on there. With our fight, I thought that I was dominating the fight. I thought, I was pushing the pace and whatever. But come the second round, you're probably seeing the fight where I'm tucking up on the ropes and I'm trying to go like this on the ropes, and then obviously I'm trying to cover with my hands, and then obviously you can do that in gloves. And then in bare knuckle, Mickey come up through the middle and he broke my nose, and it must have been about 10 seconds left of the second round. I couldn't see. Now if someone would have said to me, "Don't go down," I would have probably still won that fight. Obviously, but I took the knee just to compose myself. And as I said, there was 10 seconds of the second round left. So, but as we come into the third, I brushed that off and I come out and I dominated again. I think Mickey might have thought that he secured it, but yeah, I won't go down without a fight. So whether you've broke my nose or you've smashed my eyes up or whatever, or broke my jaw, I'm still going to be swinging. So, but yeah, so that was basically it. So I've got to give Mickey all props for winning that fight. You know what I mean? It was for me myself though. I lost myself that fight, but like I said, I can't take any credit away from Mickey. He did a fantastic job.
Brilliant. Well, it's a brilliant insight, champ. And again, like I did say, it's the things that people don't see just from watching the fight. And obviously, it's a cracking fight, and all of your fights have been really. But at the same time, it's the things people don't see. So obviously, Paul Taylor. Now we're creeping up on some of the other ones with the British title, and obviously Josh and all that. But before that, Paul Taylor, we'll give a quick mention to him. Now, obviously, there's no contest scenario and all the stuff that went wrong there and all that sort of thing. In your own words. What are your reflections on it now, however long later?
I think the Paul Taylor fight was one of the fights I actually sold tickets for that fight. He was probably one of the only people that got into my head. He was saying that I was a novice and he's a professional and he's fought for heavyweight titles and this, that, and the other. And so, but he kept on drilling on that I was a novice. So he sort of, I started thinking to myself, have I took a step too far with this one? But actually, when the fight actually happened, I thought that, after the first few, blows landed, I was like, well, yeah, I'm not doing too bad here. So I started to get into it a bit. And then I think I landed an uppercut. And he didn't like it, and he started to cower down. But as I threw an uppercut, I'm mid-flow, and as he's gone down, I followed him, and I think I caught him with one on the floor. Obviously, got a point taken away from Barrington, from Barrington and stuff, which, you know, I could totally understand. But the main thing is, you know, him being a professional athlete and a professional MMA guy, you know, he should be used to that. Not saying that I'm not trying to condone that, but I'm saying that he should have been up and ready to fight, but he wasn't. He quit. So he quit on the canvas and he robbed me of a win. So, and he told me that in the back as well. As we went into the back, he was saying, "I'm so sorry for that." He goes, "I knew I was going to lose. That's why I didn't get back up." So, and that's what you don't. That's the side that you don't see. But yeah, it's he tried to use like excuses as on weight and he shouldn't have been in there and that. So I offered him the fight again. I says, "Okay, get yourself down to 18 stone, and we'll fight again." And he was like, "Yeah, we'll do it." And he fell off the face of the earth. No one heard of him again. So I put that one to bed.
For sure, yeah. Again, and honestly, I mean, respect to you both, but it is something that people don't see, and it's I love all this behind the scenes stuff. All right then, so obviously you're gonna love this one. Obviously Josh the Hammer Burns. Now, obviously, you've seen my interview with Josh, and there was this discrepancy with saying that I've got a 7-2 record, whereas obviously we know that it's a 5-5 record. Now, I have got a lot of respect for Josh. I'm not, you know, been any disrespect there, because he was a warrior in BKB and he's still a warrior in BKFC now, and he's done a lot with MMA and all of that stuff. But obviously there is this record discrepancy, and I know you were talking to me about that, about how, you know, your fight wasn't mentioned in that and all that sort of stuff. So let's talk a little bit about him, about Josh the Hammer, and well, in your own words, champ, what would you like to say about your fight with him and anything that follows?
Yeah, so this all started. I was actually getting off a plane from Turkey, and I was just walking off the plane, and Jim phoned me. He says, "Do I want to come down to London to fight?" And asked him who it was, and he was like, "Josh Burns," and I was like, "Oh." I said, "I've just come off holiday. I've been on the beer. I've been eating what I want and stuff and that." So I was like, "Oh, really?" And he was like, "Yeah. Do you want to come down?" I was like, "Oh, I think I need to have a bit of a sleep first." So I said, "Let me call you back." And I called him back. I said, "All right, how much you paying me then to come down?" We had a discussion about pay and stuff. And I thought, you know what? I'm coming down. We're having the scrap. So yeah, I dropped my stuff off at home and headed down to the O2. Yeah, I got to see Josh in person. I thought, yeah, he's a big lump. I thought he was a bit smaller than what I thought he was going to be. To be fair, because I was slightly taller, I think, but he's still like a man mountain, even you know what I mean. So, but then I think he was another guy that actually I thought, oh crap. I remember I was sitting in Nando's with John Hick and Conatini, and I'm saying to him, like, "Lads, I'm just going to take the money. I'm just going to get banged and take the money." And they were saying, "No, you'll do all right. You'll do all right." And I said, "Oh fuck, you know, I'm just going to go in and scrap then. Go and scrap." But yeah, probably like nerves probably got to me a bit on that one as well. But as we just started doing the interviews and stuff like that, and he kept on saying, "Oh yeah, he's a nice guy and this and that, but I'm going to knock him out." I thought, okay. I said, "Just so you know, I'm going to be doing the same to you. I'm going to be trying to do the same to you." And that was that. It was, we was nice and respectful. I think Josh is a nice, respectful guy. We got in there. And like I said, it was like the same with the Paul Taylor. I felt that I wasn't out of my depth, especially being unfit and just coming off holiday. So I, was having a good old scrap. I think I was landing quite a few punches, but then he caught me as I hit him. I think it was a left or a right, might have been a left hook, which sort of like took me back, and I went back into the ropes, and then he must have caught me in the temple, which made me, which dropped me. The next thing I know, I remember thinking, "What are you doing on the floor?" get up. But then I can hear my corner saying, take the 18, take the 18. So I sat there and I've composed myself. And I thought, you know what, he's going to be coming like a bat out of hell now. So he's more than likely going to blow. So I sat back and, you know, I took my time against it, and I picked my shots and stuff like that. But then we got out the first round into the second, and it was a bit more equal then. But then I caught him with an uppercut, 2 uppercuts, sorry, and he started to cower. So then from at that point, then I turned the heat on, turned up the pressure. Yeah, and that's what turned the whole fight dynamic, and I started to beat him, and I was hitting him with shots at will, and I think I did quite a lot of damage to his eyes. So in the third round, I think the doctors were like iffy about sending him out. So he come out anyway. He had a bit of a scrap, and then the towel got thrown, which I don't think Barrington saw. But Sammy had to jump on the side of the ring because I was looking to take Josh's head off, to be fair. So yeah, and they stopped it, and I won, which was something that I was shocked at myself. I didn't think I was gonna win, but like I said, I'm gonna go down swinging. You know what I mean? So it's going to be very, very hard to get me out of there. So yeah, and I won. And now I know there's a bit of, I don't know if there's a bit of bad blood between him and Jim and Joe, but I think it was that fight where they told him, you are not good enough for BKB anymore. So I think he sort of crossed that one off his career. So he's crossed it off his record. So, but like I said, I've seen some of the stuff that he was, saying on the interview with yourself, and I was a bit taken back that he didn't recognise the fact that I'd beat him. But yeah, so I thought I had to put that one right anyway. So actually, I posted a few things and stuff, but it's one of them. It's I've worked hard to get to where I am now. So it's not very nice when people they want to discredit that. So yeah. It is what it is.
Well, it's an interesting one. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad we get to set the record straight. And obviously, I would say, and I know I keep saying this, but obviously, it was a fantastic fight, and obviously, it had over 1 million views as well, guys. Anyone that doesn't know, I sort of posted on Dan's Facebook earlier, 1.9 million views, I think. So that shows how popular the fight was, and that shows it's out there, and it's never going to be forgotten. And I got to say, it's an all-time classic fight. I mean, you are both two absolute warriors. It's one of my personal favorites of your career for what it's worth as well. And obviously, but I am glad we got to set the record straight. And it's, yeah, I mean, like I say, when I interview people, my thing is very much to bring out what they say. And he shared the stuff about Jim and Joe and being released by them and his version. And obviously, I wasn't there; it's none of my business. But he shared his account of that, and he shared his account of his career. But one way or another, he's a warrior, and so are you. But I'm glad we got to correct that, because I was thrown as well by this thing about the 7-2 record versus the 5-5 record. And I am going to say that publicly, because Josh has also got nothing to hide or be ashamed of in terms of his record, because he's been in with the best. So I was a bit thrown by that as well. I'm just going to say that, so I don't know, whatever, each to our own, and it takes all sorts to make a world. But big respect to you both, and I'm glad we got to clear that one up. Funny story with that. This is not a question, then I'll go off topic. I'll tell you real quick before we do the next question. When I interviewed Harry Miles, he said the same thing about Josh's size. He actually, and I can say this because it's all in the public, he said that he'd never seen Josh until he fought him. He said he turned up for the fight and said, "Oh, he's a big lad, and he's young. I feel sorry if you're just going to be fighting him," or something like that. And his mates who was with him said, "You're going to be fighting him, mate." And he was, and he got in there to scrap. And I thought there's a few stories around Josh. that I love. But that's way off topic. But it's just some light stuff. So all right then. So obviously this is a good one now. The British title. Rob Cunningham. Obviously another. It's hard to choose between your fights because a lot of them are real wars and real crap. But this is another one, personal favorite of mine. So again, obviously, I've got to give this one some context of the fact that, as well as that, with Josh and with Rob and with some of these guys, you've come from these small venues to the O2 and these massive arenas as well. So just don't leave that out, because I was going to put that as a separate question, but pop that in there because I'd love to hear how you felt about that. But yeah, becoming British champion, how did that feel? I mean, after all the fights you've had, it's got to be an amazing feeling.
Well, after beating Josh Burns, Jim and Joe sort of promised me big fights, but the heavyweight division wasn't what it was, what it once was. You know what I mean? So like the Mickey Tyrrells and the Harry Mileses, they all sort of half retired and went. So there wasn't really no one for me to fight. So Jim and Joe gave me the permission to go and fight elsewhere. I ended up fighting another American on the Gloves Are Off show, which lasted 30 seconds, which only proved to me that I belong on the upper echelon of the fights. So I said to him, you know, well, Josh Burns was a former world title contender. I said the only way forward for me now has got to be a British title minimum. You know what I mean? So they accepted, which was a good fight. And then they decided to choose Rob, because initially we were supposed to be fighting in a 4-man prize fighter, which obviously that got cancelled because of the COVID. Yeah, so he said, how do I feel about fighting Rob? I was like, yeah. I says, yeah, we're going to put the British on the line. So I was like, oh, fantastic. I trained like really hard for that one as well. Obviously, we were supposed to be taking part in the prize fighter. So I did like a 12-week camp for that. And then it got cancelled. So then I think I did another 2 or 3 months training on top. So I think I did about 5 months camp for the British. So I was in tip-top shape. And no one was going to beat me that night. I thought, you know what, it was on a lockdown show, so the money wasn't great. But for that show, I wasn't really bothered about the money. It was more to do with the title. So I agreed to fight, and Rob was on his debut. He did well. You know, he took four rounds for me to get him out of there. But I wasn't in a rush to knock someone out. I wanted to get the rounds under my belt. Also, obviously, I started training at Fitness Factory under Simon Haycock. He got me, like I said, into tip-top condition, and he said, just go in there, have fun, take your time. Rob is a big lump. He's like 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", something like that. He was 20 stone, which was big. All these guys seem to be about 6'5", 20 stone, to be fair. But yeah, I think I weighed in about 18 stone. So there's a bit of a difference in weight. And I went in there and had fun, and I've come out the champion. And it was quite an emotional moment. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's one I won't never forget.
Incredible! It is incredible, and obviously it's an incredible achievement, no matter who it is and what it is. And obviously, there's a lot of fighters who never get the chance to do something like that. So for you to be given the opportunity, I think it was well earned after all the fights that you've had and all that stuff. But it's probably, I'd imagine all the sweeter, for having over 200 or maybe more, however many, it's got to be. Did that come into it as well? Because
it was like I've paid my dues now. I've done all the fights, and I've, it's about time that I've actually got something back. So I always thought, that I was, when I first started doing the bare knuckle, I thought, I'm going to be a champion one day. And now I am, and there's a lot of hard work gone into it. So I always thought that I'd be a bare knuckle champion. So, and I'm sat here today. The belt's on the wall, and I've got some stories to tell the kids and the grandkids. So it's a great moment in my life.
Yeah, it is, and it's well deserved. And the other thing is, with bare knuckle, obviously it's expanding all around the world now, and I know that Jim and Joe were really, the forerunners of that. And obviously Ultimate Bare Knuckle Boxing, a few other guys, but Jim and Joe really put it on the map. And I think that this will all go down in history, and guys like you have been like the pioneers. I know that sounds a bit strange, but like that's my view, and that's just my opinion. But when you look back on the UFC, and how big it is now, and then you look back at some of the early, guys, and they're all in the Hall of Fame and all that, and they're like the guys that made it, or helped make it what it is now. And I really think that you and a lot of the guys fighting you right now are in that position to be like, have your place in the history books for not only for winning titles, but for launching or being part of the movement that launched bare knuckle to be, if you get me. So that's not a question, but that's just.
It'd be nice. It'd be nice to to go down in like the Hall of Fame. So I'd actually want to set myself as being the best heavyweight. To be fair, I know there's a lot of work going into that, because I know that Mickey Tyrrell was the best heavyweight to come into the BKB. To be fair, and he smashed it. And now he's off to the BKFC, which I know he's going to do the utmost over there. He's going to smash a lot of them, as I think I would. I think I'd go over there and I'd beat most of the heavyweights over there. But I think Mickey Tyrrell is going to show him what England's all about. We're the pioneers of the sport. You know what I mean? This is where it started. So for me to be, one of the pioneers and helping it grow and stuff like that, it's really an honour, to be fair. And I hope that one day that maybe I could get into that Hall of Fame.
I think so, and that's just my view on it. But again, it's another thing. Yeah, England and the UK as a whole. I mean, we're the sort of originators of this. Like hundreds of years ago now. And that's the other thing I love about BKB and Jim and Joe, is they've got that connection to the history. And like when you look on the on the Instagram, and they post these things about champions from ago, and it's class, man. It's really good. So that's not a question. That's just me saying. And I got respect for all the promotions, everyone out there. I mean, like the clubs of art, and like all these guys, obviously BKFC, but it's just, Jim and Joe being the pioneers is awesome. So, right, what have I missed here now? So Charlie Milner, obviously we've got to give him a mention. Now, that was a cracking fight, and obviously he is a pretty big hitter himself, and I've heard that two of his recent MMA fights, one of them was over in 42 seconds, one of them was over in, I believe, 8 seconds. Now, I haven't seen those fights, but I've sort of seen snippets of them. But yeah, I mean, your fight with him, same thing. I mean, what do you remember about it? How do you rate it? Just anything you'd like to say about it, really.
Me and Simon, my coach, we sort of saw it coming. Obviously, his fight with Eric, I think there was lining it up, for me and him to fight. I think we thought, he was going to be the next one for us. So we thought, just coming off the Cunningham win, he was sort of a similar opponent. So we jumped straight off the bat back. We did 2 camps back to back. And I think Charlie Milner, he faced, Daniel Podmore 2.0 from the Cunningham fight. So I just progressed from that fight. And I think, obviously, people watch all the videos of me on like YouTube and stuff, doing the journeyman work and that. And I think that's the way they think I'm going to fight now. But as I said, that Simon has brought me on that much now. I've brought a whole new game, whole new level to my game. So, with foot movement and head movement, and I think, But as we got into the fight, I think Charlie Milner was a totally different ball game. To be fair, he was very strong. He was very tall. He had a wicked range. I struggled the first round. I went back to the corner and goes, I ain't going to be able to get past that jab. He had an 85-inch reach. and I just had to readjust, reset, and then I started to get my shots off in the second. And as you could probably hear, Tom Ross was it Robin Black? He was sort of saying that, you know, he could tell that I was setting up the shot for the shot that actually finished it. So you could see that the whole fight I was doing like the right to the body and the left hook, which basically we worked on. And the third round come and a bit of head movement, got in there, and I dropped him, which was, to be fair, it was a shock for me because, you know, Charlie Milner's big, strong lad. You know, every time he hit me, I could feel it. You know what I mean? So, but then the fourth round, and I got the finished. You know, it was a big sigh of relief, to be honest. So I thought, yeah, well, he done well, and fair play to him. He's going to be a force to be reckoned with in later fights. So, and this is a thing that I wanted to say also about like people sort of like half discrediting my opponents and stuff. Like as you said, that, you know, Charlie Milner, he was 4-1 as a pro MMA with 4 knockouts. Yeah, and then since being beaten by me, he's gone on and won 2 more fights by knockout as well. So anyone that wants to discredit my opponents, yeah, just go look him up and see for yourself, because the guy's an animal, the guy's a beast. So, but as I said before, it's going to take something special to get me out of there. And unfortunately for Charlie, it wasn't his night; it was my night. So, all props to Charlie.
Yeah, big respect to Charlie, big respect to all the guys you faced. And I would say it's really cool to see like your development, because, you know, you've gone from being a journeyman, or at least being seen as one, to showing to being an elite competitor. And obviously,
Yeah.
you know, personally, I think that what that's done is that sort of brought out the talent that was always there within yourself. And I'm not just saying that, but it wasn't really, I don't think you were having the opportunity to show it, obviously, with the journeyman fights and the money and all. And I know the money was good, so you can't knock it. But obviously now you're showing, you know what I mean, what you're made of. And this is why I think there's a good possibility the best is yet to come. Obviously, you've got the British title, but I do feel it's onwards and upwards. Now, before we get to the future, because I know I've said that, I do want to get to the future, but nobody should disregard your opponents or discredit them, because honestly, you've been in there with some great guys, and I mean, some of what these guys have accomplished is, you know, anyone just look them up. I mean, we've got top MMA fighters and all types of people, and they've done a ton of stuff. So I don't know. I think that's a bit daft, but you know, again, each to our own. But before we get to the future, out of the fights you've had in just thinking if I should group them all together, or if I should just do bare knuckle and unlicensed. No, let's group them all together. Out of the fights all the fights you've had in your career, unlicensed or bare knuckle, some of the toughest, and I know you've mentioned a few here that were specifically tough, but and I was going to do them separate, but for the time and for people's attention spans of this interview, we'll lump them together. All the fights you've had, who comes to mind for being a few of the toughest guys that you've been in there with?
Fought Mason Shaw in Gloved. He was tough. This was back when we were both, you know, big dudes. You know what I mean? Now we've both come down in weight. Mason's he's doing his thing at the 80 kilo, is it 88 kilo mark? Yeah, we had a good fight on his home show. He was a tough opponent. He hit hard. Big John Lewis, another BKB pioneer. Me and him had a war. Was it a 5 or a 6 round war? Gloved. He's probably the person that's hit me the hardest in my career, which is some doing, to be fair, because I've been hit by some big dudes. Who else? I think the Josh Burns fight was one for me as well. It was a tough fight, and of course the Charlie Milner fight. It's sort of like, you know, I'm surpassing some of my own expectations, sort of thing, and stuff like that. So beating these sort of guys makes me just, you know, when I won the British title, I thought, you know, I had still a bit of more to prove to be a champion and stuff like that. So I think me beating Charlie Milner that's just put it to bed. You know, that's like, cemented, my championship status sort of thing. So yeah, yes, I've had some good hard scraps, but like I said, I've had that many now. I'm struggling to find names, to be fair. But like I said, they've all been. I've had some right tear ups with a few people. So, but then the ones I've mentioned are probably some of the hardest fights I've had. So
yeah, well, it's good. It's good to highlight it. I mean, everyone that steps in that ring, deserves respect because it's a brave thing to do for anyone. So obviously to mention that. But yeah, I mean, a few out of all, it's good to hear. It's a good highlight for the fans. You've answered the hardest hitter as well, so I had that. So, and the last couple of things really, because we'll wrap on this because we this interview's exceeded my expectations, so that's a good thing. Is obviously your future plans now. Actually, before we get into that, what would you say to Jim and Joe watching this, or any of their key people? Because obviously they're the ones give you opportunity to do this. So I don't want to finish the interview without giving them a little mention of
yeah,
respect. What would you say about that?
So for what to Jim and Joe, I've just got to give them nothing but respect for getting me on the card from way back when, giving me the opportunity to fight for the British title and defend it. You know what I mean? So to keep having me back on the show is phenomenal. It's like without them, I wouldn't be like where I am now. To be fair, so all respect and prop to go out to Jim. They're doing a fantastic job with the company. We are leading the market. You know what I mean? BKB are we're leading the market. So I'm just ready to take on bigger, better fights, and I hope they're ready to give them. So it's I'm ready to fight my heart out for them. You know what I'm saying? So it's we're going to hopefully have some bigger, better fights.
Brilliant. All right. I'm sure you will, champ. I'm sure you will. There's a lot of guys out there that I'm sure obviously want to fight you and you want to fight them and the fans want to see it. So, as long as the money's there, which I'm sure it will be, then it should all come together for some massive scraps from here. Now, the very last couple of things, obviously future plans. So I did just start saying that just now, but yeah, future plans. You sort of touched on that, but just to sort of hone in on it, is there anyone really specific you'd like to fight? Is it whoever comes your way? Other belts you've got an eye on? Just anything at all? Or...
Well, I've got my eyes on the world title. That's no secret. Obviously, I need to put that world title on that wall, and whoever wants to, to go for it with me, you know what I mean. It'd be an honor to grace the ring with them. But I think there's talk of Dorian Darch. I think he wants to call me out or mentioned my name, whatever. So I think if Dorian wants to have it and to have a go with me to have that world title, then we can do it. That's a really intriguing fight for me. I think I like that fight, to be fair. But like I said, in the interview, my last fight, I want big names. See, obviously Dorian is a big name. I want some Americans. I want that Fabio Maldonado. They've signed. I'll have anyone. So if they want to get anyone over to fight, or whether they want me to fight Dorian, I'm ready to fight. Like I said to Jim and Joe, I will fight any man, anytime, anywhere. So, and I think there's I think Harry Miles. I think Harry Miles won a bit as well, to be fair, but he's been off like a few years and stuff, and I hope he does well in his next fight against Charlie Milner, because I think that's gonna be a harder fight than what he thinks. But good luck to both men as well. I like that fight. But yeah, I'll fight any man, anytime, anywhere, and hopefully Jim and Joe, they're going to give me something soon. I'm starting to get a bit bored now. I want to jump back in. You know what I mean? I want to start throwing hands. So let's go.
Let's do it. All right, brilliant. Well, the very last thing I have, because I thought this would be half an hour, it's been nearly an hour. So I mean, that's not a bad thing because we've covered some amazing stuff. But the very last thing I have is just for your fans and supporters, because obviously, whether this be you know, trainers, family members, or whatever you know, friends, or whether this be the fans who obviously turn up and watch you fight or tune in or whatever they do. You know, the genuine ones now. I'm talking about not the people who come and go, but the people who've been solid
Yeah,
in your career. Obviously, it wouldn't be a complete interview without mentioning them, because no man's an island, and everyone needs some support. So, you know, yeah, what would you say to them watching this? That's the last question, really.
just thank you for the continued support. You know, Simon Haycock, thanks to him, you know, he's getting me to where I need to be. Like I said, I think there's more to come. The best is yet to come. So thank you to all the fans that are following me, and you know, they're joining me on this journey. I've got to thank my lovely fiance who takes the good with the bad. You know what I mean? When I'm in camp and stuff like that, she's amazing. She'll actually, you know, help out more than, you know, expected, to be fair. So she's the one that wants to massage me and, you know, make sure my food prep's right and stuff like that. So without her, you know, being in camp it's a little bit easier when she's there. So yeah, and nothing but love and respect to everyone that, you know, is trying following me on this journey. It's we're not finished. Like I said, I will be world champion. 100%, I will be world champion. So stay tuned.
All right. Well, champ, yeah, first of all, thank you for coming on the show. Obviously, everyone, you heard it first. Stay tuned. I also believe the best is yet to come, and you know that goes without saying. But yeah, honestly, big respect for coming on, and we've covered a lot. I mean,
My
we've covered.
pleasure. My pleasure.
Oh, well, my pleasure as well. We've covered a lot more than what I thought, but in a good way. Like, you know, we've gone in depth and all that, and given the fans a real insight. So yeah, so big thank you.
Nice
All
one.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the Simply Inspired YouTube channel, and there'll be more videos coming soon.